Hello and welcome back to another episode. I'm Minion J. I work on behalf of the Disgruntled Octopus, and a big shout out to Profit-First Reseller, Joe. Because, he did mention me in one of his videos, so thank you very much if you have come across from Joe. I have been watching him for quite a while. I'm more of a silent participant in the backstages of his videos. I normally put them on, and I have mentioned in previous videos, I love listening to that longer form content. Where I could just be doing whatever I need to do and have him, have Tori, have anyone else that has hour or 2 hour long conversations and go from that way. So, needless to say, this isn't the Disgruntled Octopus. One day I learned to talk, and this isn't the Disgruntled Octopus. If you are old enough, and this kind of feeds back into Joe's video, this is an Octorock. So an Octorock, I won't ask you in the comments to put it down because you probably won't know, nor will you care. It's actually from The Legend of Zelda. So it is in the first game. It might be those little crab-like things that spat rocks at you if you're old as I am, old as time. You probably will recognise that. So needless to say, he's still an octopus. He's in the Octo Lair, and my beloved Cthulhu, or however you want to pronounce him, he's here as well. So I have had an update from Grumpy Granny. We spoke earlier in the week. She's doing well. So she does have a personal thing going on with one of her friends at the moment, in the sense that she's assisting her friends with a family, I won't say emergency, or family crisis. There's nothing to do with health. She has given me permission to talk about it and obviously explain to people what's going on. However, due to the severity of what's going on, I'm not going to, entertain or gossip or just contrary to what I normally am. But like I'm saying, is that I dare say she's going to be back probably in the next couple of weeks on the YouTubes, or on YouTube. I don't edit this one, so if obviously say things or I trip over my words, guess what? Strap yourselves in. You're going to get more of that. She, like I said, is the climax. I suppose that's probably not the best word to use in this sentence. Is later next week. So once that's all finalised, she probably will take a couple of days off to decompress, and obviously come back to YouTube and see all of her loyal fans, because a lot of people in my comment section repeatedly keep asking about Grumpy Granny and how she's going, and if she's coming back to YouTube, is the octopus coming back, and all these different things. But needless to say that Grumpy Granny's healthy, she's happy as much as she can be, being Grumpy Granny, and she does send on her well wishes, so thank you very much for those. I will kind of throw this in as well before I wrap this video up, is that I was watching a bit of Josh Graff this afternoon. Josh Galt. There's too many Joshes running around. Maybe we call them different things. Maybe Minion J, and who else could we have? Josh G. Well, there's 3 Josh Gs. We're losing track of the things. My last name is Gibb, so we've got 3 Joshes that I'm aware of, or Josh G, Graff, Galt, and me. So needless to say, I was watching Josh Galt today, and he was talking about branding. He was talking about giving yourself the competitive edge. Well, that's what I took out of it. And having people come back to you. I think Joe from Profit-First Reseller was talking a little bit about it as well, in the sense of kind of niching down, moving away from that everything seller status and all those different things. So a little bit about me, if you've come across them the first time. Yes, I'm unhinged. To the point where I hear voices in my head, but we can say I'm a little bit crazy. Much to my comment section's delight and dismay, I do have ADD or ADHD, whatever I want to do. I am medicated. I find the medication takes the voices away in my head, but that's not necessarily a good thing. But like I was saying, is that this channel kind of caters towards those that are neurodivergent. I do get a little bit iffy about neurospicy. It's not for me, but hey, everyone's to their own. If you want to call it whatever you want to call it. And like I said before, you don't need to be neurodivergent here. You don't need to be, on the bandwagon wearing tinfoil hats and all these different things. It's just a case of that. It's what my angle is. It's who I am. Very similar to ADHD, but a little bit more organised. But yeah, so like I was saying, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. If you do like it, more than welcome to sit down and leave a comment. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because Tori's catching up on me, the Geelong Flipper. So, going back before I started rambling endlessly about neurodivergence and neurospices and pissing people off in that respect. So for a very, very, very long time, I was an everything seller, but for an equal amount of time, I was a niche seller, in the sense that, excuse me, When I first started selling on eBay, probably very early 2000, just say 2024, 25, around that time, 2024, 2004, 2005, it's not very much. I sold arcade boards. So basically, if you aren't aware, that is an arcade machine, a bit retro in the garage. So an arcade machine, if you think of a computer board in the sense when if you open up like an old-fashioned computer, if you're old enough to remember those, there's big green boards with like little circuitries and all those different things. That's what goes into arcade machines, right? They're just like a printed board that has the game on it. So back in 2004, 2005, I bought myself an arcade machine, and the arcade boards in Australia were very, 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 very hard to come across, right? So what I would do is I would import them from Germany, from the UK, some from Italy as well, not much from America or Canada, which is quite different to what I thought it would be in the case. But long story short, I would import them, I would test them, and then what I would find is that if I brought them in, just say $150, that would cost me to get them to me. I would put them back on eBay and take photos of them working, and take better photos and list them for anywhere up to $600-700. So I was making a decent profit. So what I was doing is not necessarily thinking of it in a reselling perspective. I was using it to offset my my hobby, which was basically board games. I absolutely love Wonder Boy. I love Bubble Bobble. I love Snow Brothers. I love Neo Geo, which is your Metal Gear Solids. Metal Gear, Metal Slug. Geez, I'm having kicking goals today. So if Paige is watching, I apologise, Paige. I do know arcades. So Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, all those games. I had them on my boards. So I actually had the dedicated boards for them. And like I was saying, is that I would bring them in quite cheaply, buy 2 or 3 depending on what I could get at the time. Then do them up, or like I said, clean them up if they needed to. Put them in the arcade machine, not this one, but a different one I used to have back in the day. Take videos and photos of it working, and then put it back on eBay and make a decent profit to offset my collection. Then I moved into Lego, which I have said previously, was doing very, very, very good in Lego. Then I came across YouTube and YouTube resellers, which, it's all on me, but they convinced me to become an everything seller. And needless to say, I was selling clothes, I was selling Skylanders, I was selling toys, I was selling Funko Pops, I was selling absolutely everything. And needless to say that I jumped on the, go full time and become a full time reseller because it's the best thing. It's fantastic. You can quit your job in your 9 to 5 and become all these different things. Needless to say, I did that and tried to do that when I was selling clothing almost exclusively. It didn't work out. I went back to work. That was a failing of myself. I don't really see it as a failing in the sense that it gave me some invaluable experience, invaluable business advice, invaluable everything, all those different things. So needless to say, when I was doing clothing, I think my 90-day total revenue, if you are watching Peachy, I did use the revenue word, which you do love. So hopefully I've got some gold star ticks in your books. Of 90 days, it was about 25 to 30 grand. So worst case scenario, $100,000 revenue a year, and best case, probably $120,000 revenue a year. And my profit margin was probably 25 to 30% on that. So I left my job. So I was doing probably about, just say, $110,000 when I was working before I became a full-time reseller, from $110,000 Australian to $35,000 best case scenario, right? Needless to say, that wasn't sustainable, so I went back to work, which I quite enjoy actually. I quite enjoy harassing more people. If you haven't worked out already, I'm quite extroverted, but a little bit unhinged, as I said previously. And I need that interaction, that human interaction, which is why I thought going back to work was a good idea. I do things a little bit different these days in the sense that I go back as a contractor. So I can pick and choose where I want to work. And it gives me a little bit more freedom in the sense that I'm not particularly locked into a particular place for 2 to 3 years, hating my life. Needless to say, going back to Skylander. So when I went back to full-time employment, I still really enjoyed, reselling and all those different things. I had built some good friendships in the reselling space. I wanted to, do something where it would still give me some spare cash, some pocket money, not necessarily to build a collection or anything along the lines of that as to what it originally started off with, the arcade boards. Just a little bit of a sidetrack. When I sold Lego, it wasn't a hobby. I didn't like Lego. I can't stand building Lego. I'm not one of those people like it. I'm special in the sense that I loved looking in here in the garage, spinning around and having all the Lego boxes lined up as if you went into like a Walmart or a Kmart or a boutique store, and like very similar to what you've got the Sega Master System games here, right? How they're all lined up. They're not very display quality at the moment. I'm trying to work out what to do with them. I love Sega Master System games. So if I am collecting anything at the moment, it's probably those things. But I would have my Lego sets very similar to what the spines that you can see there, all along the top of these shelves, all along the shelves. And I would walk into this garage like a sadist and go, oh my God, that looks fantastic. So aesthetically pleasing. And it'd get to the point where I'd get upset if I sold a Lego set, because it was like kind of like I'd get accustomed to that, almost like an artwork as I walked into my garage. But like I was saying, when I went to work, I wanted to have something that, it's almost come like reselling or a business has become my side hobby, to tell you the truth, in the sense that I really am addicted to selling stuff. And probably like a lot of people in the reselling space, they're addicted to buying stuff. What I have found is I needed to move away from the everything store model, because I didn't have the copious amounts of time to go on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't have copious amounts of time to go to thrift stores. I didn't have copious amounts of time to go to garage sales. Fun fact, I've only ever been to 2 garage sales. My first garage sale was probably a couple of years ago. I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure I put this on the channel before, but I actually went there because this lady had a Nintendo DS listed on Facebook Marketplace, organised to pick that up, and coincidentally enough, it was a part of a garage sale. Then when I went to pay, because she had like one of those tap and go machines, the square soft ones, she goes, oh, don't worry if it comes up as on your bank account as a hairdresser or a barber. I can't remember what she was, is because I'm a hairdresser. I said, oh, I need a haircut. So I'm here in a garage sale, in a chair, with the hair apron thing on, getting my hair cut, and she was serving people at a garage sale. So she was cutting my hair in the corner and stopping occasionally to serve people at a garage sale. So, and I have been to another garage sale probably about 6 months ago with Agent S. I was looking to do some garage sale content, because apparently people like picking videos for some reason. I can't stand it. I can't work out how to do it. Maybe I get too self-conscious or I get too angry at the prices, or can't control the camera. Needless to say, there wasn't much there. It was pretty crap. And that was a side path that we really didn't repeat. So I didn't have time for all those things, because I'm married, I've got 4 kids. I don't recommend having 4 kids, but hey, here we are. So needless to say, I've got to try and share my time between that, my hobby, which is obviously reselling, my family, my work, and all these different things. So that led me to move into a niche, which is coincidentally is Skylanders, right? So I don't know if I said it in the front of the video, because I've taken about 4 or 5 takes of this, because I haven't been happy with the topic of conversation, all these different things. So when I spoke to Grumpy Granny the other day, like I was saying, is try to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, and I said, who cares? Or something along that, because obviously her circumstances, she was trying to articulate to me the extent of what's going on and all these different things, and trying to get, I suppose, a reassurance, kind of like a little group think, in the sense of me trying to jump on the bandwagon and say that she's right, or the circumstances are right, or their stance is right, all these different things. But I threw it back at her and said, who cares? Like, why should I care? Or something along the lines of that, which obviously, pissed her off, understandably. But then she kind of clicked onto what I was saying, is that what I find in the reselling space, if I go into the Facebook groups, or if I go into Reddit and all these different places, a lot of people are complaining about slow sales. A lot of people are complaining about eBay. A lot of people are complaining about everything else other than what they can change themselves. And I'm not here to put my tinfoil hat on and say I'm fantastic and know all the different things. Who cares? Like, what are you doing to make it any different? Like, it's the amount of time that you spend, in the comments section, or writing that initial post, or doing all these different things. You could be using that time to deflect and reflect, to try and work out what you can do to make your business a little bit better. Hence why I went to Skylanders, right? So I know I'm making myself seasick, so I apologize in advance. I'm using a DJI gimbal, which has obviously got a mind of its own. Like I was saying, is that I've turned into a niche seller in the sense of Skylanders. what I want to talk about quite quickly before I wrap up today's video is that give people a reason to care. In the sense that build yourself a brand. And what I was saying a bit earlier is that I was watching Josh Galt, listening to Joe, Profit First Reseller, and all these different things regarding brand image, regarding all these different things. I am quite good, and this is going to sound egotistical, and it's just the way it is, right? This is the part and parcel of who I am. Needless to say, I am quite good at branding. I did have a Lego store in the sense that it was ran by a vampire that lived in a crypt. This Lego store is ran by the disgruntled octopus. This Skylander store is ran by the disgruntled octopus, wants to take over the world, and has a whole backstory and whole lore and all these different things behind the scenes that build into this brand, right? So a little bit of a side story. On the Skylander group that I'm in, I put in a picture of like a wanted post and also a picture of my YouTube channel, just to give it kind of a bit of authenticity, because there is a lot of scammers running around at the moment. And I basically said, hey, look, I want to buy some Skylanders, and this is my YouTube channel, and all this different crap and all these different things. So I had someone reach out to me and go, oh, are you the disgruntled octopus? And I was like, yeah. Well, I'm Minion J, which is obviously the character I play on this channel. And he's like, what are you talking about? So it's too egotistical thinking someone finally recognized me from YouTube. But he knew me from the eBay store, right? So without tooting my own horn, I'm kind of a decent seller of Skylanders in Australia, probably a little bit to the world as well, nowhere near as big as some players. But if you go into Skylanders, type on sold listings or click on the sold listings, there's a good chance you're probably going to see a lot of my listings come up. It's the one with the little octopus on the end, disgruntled octopus. So, like I was saying, he recognized me from that. He's like, fanboying over the sense that, thinks I'm fantastic for my listings and my YouTube content from the other channel, which I don't show my face on very much because it's all shorts. So it's good. Like I say, is you need to, it's a very, very, very long way of saying it, is build yourself a brand image, or build yourself, is infinitely easier to do from a niche perspective. If you go out there and buy everything like I used to do, now I niche into Skylanders. And if we come up here, and hopefully I don't trip over, I'm walking backwards, and board games and Dungeons and Dragons books, right? So fantasy, board games, and Skylanders, a little bit of video games behind me. Anything that kind of falls under the gaming umbrella, because my business, for example, from that perspective, and I am in the process of rebranding it from the Disgruntled Octopus to Disgruntled Games. Anything that falls under that gaming umbrella that I can make a decent profit on. For example, these board games here, they go for $10 plus post, they're getting donated. I'm not even going to worry about that crap, right? So if it's board games that are considerably big, so you've got some here like Talisman, I've got that listed for $300. I've got Battlestar Galactica for $175. You can't really see it's that one there. That one's for $200. That one's for $175. I think they're $150 each. That's $175. Some of the older books for Dungeons and Dragons are up to $300 each, and also all the way up to $40 and all these different things. It's not to say that I'm fantastic. Look at me, how fantastic I am, and all these different things. What I'm trying to say is that you need to buy things that have a considerable profit margin. I'm finding a lot more people in the YouTube space are moving across to the thing that I've been spruiking for the best part of a couple of years now. Don't buy, a thing for $1 to sell it for $7 plus postage. That to me is not a very good return on investment time-wise, where I could buy a $50 board game and list it for $300 or something like that. I'm probably not going to get $300 for it. I'll take offers of $200. But that's still a decent, revenue, peachy, if you're watching, after we're all said and done. So, like I was saying, is find yourself a niche, learn that niche to an extent, and I think you could probably even cheat these days in the sense that you could probably go to ChatGPT and say, hey, look, I want to start selling board games. Give me 20 points of what I need to absolutely know about board games to sell them, and give me a SWOT analysis on the current market. So a SWOT analysis, for not those that are watching or that don't know, and like I said, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but some people don't know. A SWOT analysis is a strength, weakness, and opportunity and threat. So your strength may be that you're a gamer, all these different things. Your threats may be established sellers, your opportunities might be that you have access to a vast amount of board games, secondhand. You might live next to a game shop, for example, and your weaknesses is you don't know absolutely nothing about board games, or you don't know about war gaming in the sense that, all those different things. Maybe that's what it is. So what you could do is, like I said, jump into ChatGPT, learn something in the space of what's taken me probably 2 to 3 years to learn absolutely everything about Skylanders, and I'm still learning things, which is a bit of an oxymoron thing to say. You could probably jump on a ChatGPT with your chosen niche and ask it some very pointed questions. Then, obviously, like I said, learn what you need to know to sell Skylanders, what you need to learn about board games, what you can do to make yourself competitive. But like I was saying, is you need to build yourself a brand that people resonate with. If you're a single mum, you're a single dad, you're a grandparent, you're a school person, that someone that's in school that's trying to make some extra money, or if you have an Asian heritage, or if you're Icelandic, or if you're an octopus that lives under the sea, really, really, really hone on what makes you unique, makes you special, and then obviously build your character on that, or build your business on that, and go from that way. You, by virtue of who you are and what you do, I'm not trying to get sappy by all means, you will have access to a customer base, right? So with my neurodivergence, I do find, and I have said this numerous times before, that Skylanders, a lot of the people that I deal with, and this is by means, it's not derogatory and it's not everyone, but what I do find is that a lot of people that I deal with Skylanders are neurodivergent, in the sense that they're either ADHD or autistic, or all these different things, right? So like I said, no shade, not making fun of them or anything. I have worked out the avatar of what I want to sell to from a customer perspective. So if I can cater to those people, I can work out what they like, what they don't like. For example, and I have said before, is that because my OCD and probably a little bit of everything else mixed in, I get really upset when I see sellers selling broken or untested characters. For the simple fact is that my customer base, like with those background traits that I just told about, are very similar to me, in the sense that they want perfect characters. They want characters that have been tested. They want characters that are, aesthetically pleasing, that are not broken, that are, complete, and all these different things, that aren't massively damaged or massively paint chipped. And that's my competitive advantage, in the sense that I do take that extra 2 steps to make sure that they're all unique. I have showed on videos before, and I can't get down there because the camera's got a mind of its own. I've got a massive, massive, massive tub of Skylanders that have got arms missing, heads missing, they don't work, and all these different things. So it's my quality assurance thing to throw those things out as they come through the door. If you want to test it yourself, go and type into eBay Skylanders, go through your listings. Mine will probably be at the top, because I do have that sales history and I'm also promoting them. Scroll further down, look for batches of Skylanders. Like, come on, we're going to head down. So hypothetically, if you see something like this, this is all one character. I bought a lot of him. He's a starter character, so he's not worth too much, but this is something that I will put in maybe next month. I might do a promotion, in the sense that I've got about 100 of these guys. I might do a promotion that if you buy maybe $50 worth of Skylanders or $100 worth of Skylanders, you get one of these characters for free. These characters in my store, I think I sell them for $5 plus post on a variation listing. So if someone buys 100 Skylanders, they're only paying $10. If they are international, they'll pay a little bit more, or they'll pay a lot more actually, because it goes off the weight. But, it will kind of drive people to spend $100 to get a $5 character for free, opposed to just buying a $5 character and paying $10 postage. Like I said, it's part of a marketing different, and it's a unique proposition, right? But going back to what I was saying before I lost my train of thought, is that if you scroll through and you see listings like this, they're never lined up like that. They're all smashed together. Half the time they're laying on their sides, and God knows what it is. Zoom in on those photos. Do me a favor, zoom in on the photos and look at them. You'll probably learn, if you look at hard enough, you'll see like there's like arms missing, there's heads missing, there's all these different things missing. They're not laid out properly. People aren't selling them in the right colors. So, if people are buying them, and this is a little bit of a tidbit for those people that do want to sell Skylanders. I have been accused of before trying to kill the market. And whenever I do say don't buy Skylanders because it's not worth it, it really isn't. It's a volume game, right? It's very similar to DVDs. It's very similar to clothing, I dare say, where you need massive, and you can, all these tubs you can see around me, you've probably got them over there as well. They're chock-a-block full of Skylanders for the most part, right? These guys here, they don't fit in the red one. Like, I don't know if the red one's going to come up. There's the red one. So there's 2 red ones, right? So these red, and you know, bonus points if you've worked out at the bottom of the colours correspond with the tubs. I don't have another red tub, so this guy would almost fill up a tub by himself. Hence why I'm going to run a promotion, just to clear him out. But like I was saying, is that 99.9% of these Skylanders, especially the green ones over there and the yellow ones, all those tubs over here, with the exception of ones on the bottom, are the crap, in the sense that they're all the themes. The first theme, which is the green one, they are very cheaply made. They look like, you know, really, really, really bad knockoff kind of things, in the sense that they are plentiful and they're very cheaply made. A lot of those characters go for $1.99. And when I make them $1.99 plus postage, they're normally run at a loss, right? So if I with my promoted fees, when I pay fees, when I pay for the price of the character, it's a loss leader. If you don't know what a loss leader is, it's when, this is not going to be derogatory, right? I do hear a lot of people talk about loss leaders in the Facebook groups. A loss leader is when you sell something for minimum profit or even a loss, to get people to come into your store to buy, encourage them to buy other things, right? So that's why you will find at the checkouts in supermarkets or anywhere else, they will have your upsell stuff. So you'll have your bubblegum or your newspapers or your magazines or stuff like this that you don't need, but they want to do it. They're generally speaking, especially in sporting shops and other shops that not necessarily supermarkets, they're your high profit items, right? So they're generally trying to catch you on the way out, because you might have came in for this character for $4.99, but if I had the really, really highly desirable ones at the counter, you're like, crap, okay, look, these ones are this. So I might lose on this character, but the ones I sell behind the counter, when you go to check out, I might be getting 70, 80, 150, 255 million% return on investment on those particular characters, because they are, designed for you to come into the store to buy this particular character, which will give me no profit, which is generally all the green and all the yellow ones, to hopefully buy some of the stuff. And what I do see people in the Facebook groups and on Reddit, they talk about loss leaders and all these different things. Loss leaders don't work on eBay for the most part. They do work sometimes, and they do work a little bit for me, but for the very vast majority of how people do it, it's not done correctly. So if you're going to do a loss leader, learn what a loss leader is first. Don't send yourself bankrupt trying to work it out. And I would strongly suggest using variation listing. So I sell all my Skylanders at a variation listing. The lost leaders, so people will come in and buy, maybe 15 or 20 green ones. That takes away the loss, because like I said, I'll lose money on the first Skylander for $1.99 with the postage. Then after that, it becomes profitable. So I probably didn't articulate it very well, but you get the general gist, right? So you probably want people to make more than one purchase. When you see like coupons, like buy one get 3 free, probably a bad way of doing it. Buy one and get 4 free. I promise I don't drink. They potentially could be loss leaders. So what they're doing is, instead of you just buying one product, they could probably send 7 items out at the same time for the same postage cost. So they're just skimming that extra money on the top. But yeah, like I was saying, is when I sell Skylanders, I've built a brand. I've built a disgruntled octopus. I've built the lore and all these different things. I've built a YouTube channel that caters to people that draw them in from that perspective, and all these different things. So please, if you are looking at selling, or if you are wanting to sell, don't necessarily do it straight off the bat. We're going again. Maybe this can be part of the thing. We'll just pretend we're on a boat. Just basically look towards, eventually, once you learn the ropes and how to resell and all these different things, start thinking about long term, in the sense that, what are you going to do? Are you going to, are you just going to go to the thrift shops or the op shops on a weekly basis and hope for the best, to go on Facebook and say that Salvos and Vinnies have risen their price to $20 for a pair of jeans? Or are you going to find your own supply lines, then sell your own products, and pretty much dominate the market? that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to obliterate the Skylander market, so all stock comes to me. Like literally, it will never happen, but I want it to happen in the sense that I control at least 50% of the Skylander market in Australia. That's my goal, in the sense that I want, you know, eBay to be heavily geared towards the disgruntled octopus. That majority of the sales that you go into the sold listings, you will see my listings, because that's what I want to do. I want to dominate that market, and I'm always constantly evolving as well, which has bit me in the past, being too slow to move. So whilst I am doing Skylanders and board games now, it will eventually evolve into something else, and I will start, you know, branching out and start looking at other niches and going from that way. Because, you know, I do think, you know, things like Skylanders, like Funko Pops, like Beanie Babies, they do have their time in the sun, and eventually that will die off. So I don't want to necessarily be caught with a whole garage full of Skylanders if the trends or the wind changes on that particular trend. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this video. Let me know if you've got any questions, if you want to know what loss leaders are. If you can articulate things better than I can, please, by all means, do that. Just put in there what you think. Peachy, just put the word revenue down, because I know you love that word, mate. Revenue and superannuation. But yeah, like I was saying, let me know what you think about. But what I will do, right, if you are here, let me know if you could build a brand, if you could build a character. We're gonna start with the character, right? If you could build a character, what would that character be? You've got Grumpy Granny, you've got, you know, the disgruntled octopus. I couldn't even think of my own name. Grumpy Granny, the disgruntled octopus. You've got other people with, you know, quirky names along the lines of that. So build, you know, think of a character that resonates with you. Put it down in the comment section. Put down like Kafen, you know, the cat, or yeah, different things along the lines of that. Yeah, let me know what your character is, and we can play it with it. We can build it up, and we can go from that way. We'll talk about it in a future video. Anyway, leave it in the comments. I'll talk to you all in the comment sections. By all means, I'll respond to you. I'll talk to you and all these different things. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and hopefully you don't think I'm a lunatic, which I am. All right, we'll catch you next time. Bye.